what is the extent of modern technology we could integrate into the Varnashram model of society? Here it says, into Varnashram model of society. Need to study English a little better at school. Who asked this question? Yourself. Why did you ask the question? Are all these questions from you? No. Are they here? Okay. Why did you ask this question?
Because there are certain technologies like airplanes and cameras and microphones that help us, help like sannyasis travel to different countries to give lectures and spread Harikatha in various ways. So that's what I was wondering, Maharaj, if you can kindly answer the question.
So maybe the question could be reformulated, that if Srila Prabhupada, he envisioned and desired a descaling of industrialization and people live simply depending on the land, the cows and Krishna, then we wouldn't have all these things, would we? Something like that. Well, I'm glad you're asking about Varnashram, because it's more or less banned in ISKCON to even consider about Varnashram, even though Srila Prabhupada talks about it throughout his books. In Bhagavad-gita, there's so much discussion of Varnashram. Of course, there's only one verse which specifically says, Chatur Varnam Maya Shrishtam. Then again, in the 18th chapter, we have the discussion of the qualities of work of the 4 varnas. And among the ashrams, the sannyasi is particularly mentioned. But actually, if you study, when Krishna speaks again and again about swakarma, that means one's prescribed duties according to Varnashram. And Srila Prabhupada wanted his followers to revive and reintroduce Varnashram society, especially in the last few years. He was emphasizing this very much. But unfortunately, I don't know if it's unfortunately or if that's the right word, but you may know that over several years, the ISKCON leadership had a strategic planning committee in which they had leading devotees from all over the world come together, spending how much money we don't know, trying to strategically plan for the future of ISKCON, and Varnashram wasn't even mentioned. If they'd said, we don't know how to implement it, so we'll put it off for later, at least they would have mentioned it, but it wasn't mentioned at all. So we can't expect much success if we ignore the orders of Srila Prabhupada. Of course, book distribution is going on. So many other things are going on, but Srila Prabhupada emphasized this so much, and if we just pretend he didn't, then we're not very good disciples. It's understandable in one sense that we don't discuss it because it's such a great challenge to do it. Srila Prabhupada is looking at total restructuring of human society, which seems impossible. But then Srila Prabhupada spreading Krishna consciousness in the West at all seemed impossible. And he was able to do it because he was blessed by Krishna, because he had full faith in the order of his Guru, in the order of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in the power of the holy names and the power of the message of Bhagavatam to change people's lives. And Krishna blessed him because he went on with faith. So, okay, we're not on the level of Prabhupada, but then all of us together, if we got together and if we were serious to do it, surely we could at least make a start. It is revolutionary, but it's required. Although Varnashram, actually I've given many talks on this topic, on Varnashram, and you can find in this app, which Rishikesh Prabhu will speak about, among other things, after this session, isn't it? Yeah. Many talks on this, but many more things to say, but I may stop talking about it because who's listening? Shivaram Swami and Bhakti Raghav Swami have several times made or tried to make presentations to the GBC why we should do this, but they're not interested. That's the unfortunate situation. So, not that I'm giving up, but let's just go out and do it. And whoever wants to get involved, they can get involved. But we can't expect that ISKCON at the present time is going to do this. However, I strongly feel that, as Srila Prabhupada said, millions will join our farm communities. That if we actually got together simple living and high thinking farms, we could attract many people to come and join us. We're trying to do it by the philosophy route, mainly. But many people, I don't know about so much in this country, but in America, where land is much cheaper also, but we're hearing of people who are opting, despite having their college degrees and this and that, they're thinking, what am I going to do with my life? I don't want to live in this rat race, in this city life. And they go and live in the country. Not with the simple living, high thinking ideal that Prabhupada had, but they want to live an alternative lifestyle. They don't want to get caught up in the squeeze every drop of blood out of you society. No, they have enough sense not to be part of that. So if we were to offer simple living, natural living, that's a buzzword, people like natural living, growing your own food, protecting the cows, that would also be the proper antidote to the veganism, cultism. They have a good point, that cows are being raised for slaughter. But if we raise cows and look after them up till the moment of death, then it becomes, and it's seen that the cows are happy, then they have a harder time pressing their point. They may say that, well, cows, they're not supposed to. Actually, there's so many things. I shouldn't get into so much detail. So yeah, we could make a big impression and attract many people to join us or to take interest in us. Otherwise, why should they take interest in us? To the average person, we're just we don't exist for a start. They don't even. We had Harinam in Oldham. Thank you. Well done. There may be that. When was Harinam, public Harinam last done in Oldham? Any idea? Don't know. You live here and you don't know. 2012, 13 years ago. Last time. First and last time. No, well, it's not the last because we...
Hare Krishna. I was here previously, after 2016, and we did the Harinam, the same route. But I don't know, it's between 2016 and now sometime.
2016, okay. So maybe seems there may have been 2 Harinams. Maybe there were more, but it's certainly not a regular thing going on. So most people, they don't even know we exist. It's definitely, I don't know so much about Britain, it's definitely like that in America. I travel around America and people sometimes ask, are you monks? Thinking that for them monks means Buddhist monks. And many people who say Hare Krishna, they don't know what it is, never heard of it. Older people. And we say, oh yeah, I remember, yeah, he's still around. Like that. So we shouldn't stop Bhakti Distribution. We should ramp it up more and do Harinam Sankirtan. But we're not showing how it's a better way of life, even materially. We're not demonstrating that. In Prabhupada's books, it's very heavy. He has so many descriptions of modern civilization. Animal civilization, cat and dog civilization, vagina-licking civilization, less than animal civilization, foolish civilization, nonsense civilization. There's so many things, Srila Prabhupada. He definitely wanted to give an alternative to this soul-killing civilization. So we should do it. How to do it is not so easy to understand. But I'm sure if we brought all the good brains of ISKCON together, and we sincerely want to do this, then Srila Prabhupada will bless us. Krishna will bless us. We read this morning, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. To those who worship me devotedly, with love, constantly, I give the intelligence by which they can come to me. So Krishna will give the intelligence. I am not waiting because I'm not going to live much longer. I'm trying to get... I have a few... I'm involved in a few farm communities in India and one in Czech Republic. Well, it's small, but it's something of a start. At least some people can get involved. I'm very eager to get something started in America also. Should be done in Britain. Everywhere should be done. At least we'll make a start. We're going to make mistakes, for sure. It's not going to be easy. But it should be done. We should do something to try to fulfill Srila Prabhupada's order and pray for his blessings. Surely his blessings will be there if we try for that. Yeah, there will be so many questions which arise. So many questions. How to identify who is Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. The Kshatriya question is a big question because what does a Kshatriya mean in the modern age? Someone sitting behind a computer launching missiles, sitting in Las Vegas launching missiles in Iraq or wherever. Is that a Kshatriya? Is an MP a Kshatriya? I don't think so. They're not Kshatriyas. The whole system is vox populi. Is Donald Trump or Vladimir Putin, are they Kshatriyas? They both appear to be pretty aggressive in promoting their country's military strength. I'm not, I don't want to pass judgment on either of them, but does that make someone a Kshatriya? Does someone who leads a rebel army, are they a Kshatriya? They may have some qualities like that, but real Kshatriyas, they have to operate under the guidance of real Brahmanas. And Srila Prabhupada said he wanted to first create a class of Brahmanas. And from that everything will come. And also Srila Prabhupada said by propagating the Sankirtan movement, Varnashram will develop. But we haven't created a class of Brahmanas. We're not doing that. We are throwing threads on people, but Shamodamata tapasho cham kshantir arjavameva cha jnanam vijnanam astikyam brahma karma svabhavajam. We're not training people specifically in the qualities, the 9 qualities of Brahmanas mentioned in Bhagavad-gita. There are caste Brahmanas, people who are born in a Brahmana family and who are known to be Brahmanas, and still mostly in India at least, I'm not sure about Indians in Britain, but Brahmanas of that time, they'll only marry Brahmanas. And then there are ISKCON Brahmanas, who are people who've taken initiation in ISKCON, and mostly have done a Bhakti Shastra course, and then they get the thread, and they're called a Brahmana. But they're not living like Brahmanas. It's not creating a class of Brahmanas for leading Varnashram. Brahmana has to be distinct by living by yajan, patan, dana pratigraha. He has to be fully involved in religious activities. If one is working in a job or doing, then he's a Shudra by definition, if you're taking a salary. If you're working in some company, or if you are running some business, please everyone put off your phone if you haven't already done so. If you're running a business that's perverted reflection of a Vaishya, because most of the businesses nowadays, they're not traditional Vaishya businesses. They're part of the technological society, which providing artificial needs for people. The Vaishyas, their first duty is to provide food in the forms of, by Krishi Goraksha, producing grains and protecting cows from which we get milk. So, caste Brahmanas, they're not real Brahmanas. There may be some of them who are still real Brahmanas, as far as they can be. They still follow all the principles, they still follow all the traditions, as far as they can. They're very serious about it. There are some, more in South India than in North India. There are some. And there are ISKCON Brahmanas, and then there are real Brahmanas, which may be either caste Brahmanas or ISKCON Brahmanas, but most of caste Brahmanas and ISKCON Brahmanas, they're not real Brahmanas, if you want to say in terms of yajan, they're not living as Brahmanas. It's a designation which they have, but it doesn't fit the Varnashram description. So if they're Brahmanas, then they can guide the whole society. Kshatriyas and Vaishyas and Shudras, they can guide them all. By their character, by their personality, they should be so pure that they're respected so much. But you can't do that if you're working in a job. They don't want you to be pure, they just want you to work, that's all. Being pure is not a good policy in modern society. If you want to fit in, if you're part of modern society and you want to have good qualities, you're going to be trammeled. If you want to have a so-called good career, you're going to have to be a BASTARD. You might learn to smile while you're being a whatever it is, but you're not going to get ahead unless you're nasty. Of course, it's also important to smile while you're being nasty and speak in a sophisticated way. But this society is, you can't live in being part of this society and be pure, because it pushes us into impurity of action, of thought, of word. So we need to create real brahmanas, and then they should be deeply committed to Krishna and Krishna consciousness, deeply learned in Shastra, preferably. Not all brahmanas are like that, but there may be pujari brahmanas also. There are different kinds. So how far should we integrate modern technology? I've discussed all this in my upcoming book, The Mood and Mission of Srila Prabhupada, in which one of the points is that he was very much against the whole modern civilization. It's all based on commercialization of everything. Consumerism, which just increases lust and greed. And to sell it, you have to have advertisements which just make people more and more foolish. While giving you a so-called education, not only do they extract so much money from you, or which you don't have, so you have to spend your whole life paying it back, but they also extract from you any desire, any inclination for understanding higher principles of life. They do a good job of educating you to be a moron in their system. So you may be a highly educated, highly intelligent moron, but basically you're just doing what they want you to do to fit in. It's a demoniac society. So we have to make an alternative to that. Otherwise, it's very difficult to bring people to Krishna consciousness. They don't see any relevance because they see that life is simply meant for sense gratification, either gross or subtle, and what's this Indian religion, they think. Yeah. So there may be, Srila Prabhupada said, factories may continue for some time, but as Krishna consciousness, he was talking about how Krishna consciousness can change the world. But he said as people take this up more and more, then automatically they won't want to do that. You may have seen in Srila Prabhupada's purports, he wrote this in the first canto, even before he'd been to the West. He called factories dungeons for demons. I was just reading out in London a poem written by William Blake, who some of you may have heard of, British English, mystic and poet, who wrote, just at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, he wrote of the satanic mills, the first factories. He thought they're satanic in so many ways. They cleared people, so many history. They cleared people by force off the land and pummeled them all into cities and put them in terrible living conditions so they could work in factories. So there are so many questions which will come up in establishing Varnashram Dharma. In my app, in which there are so many discuss. Is there a section on Varnashram? Is there a playlist? There is a playlist. So one of them, I gave a talk in Puri. How long? That was about 10 years ago, something like that. That in starting these Varnashram projects, we're sailing in uncharted waters. We're not exactly sure where we're going or how to go, but anyway, we have to try. It's experimental. There will be mistakes. It is difficult. Many questions will arise. They do arise all the time as we go forward with this. But as I say, I may not speak so much about this. I may or may not. I'm thinking about whether to go on talking about this because it's really time to just do something and let's just do it. And those who want can participate in it, and those who are not interested, all attempts to make them interested have. I'm talking about the leadership. They're turning a blind eye to it.